Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Hello and welcome to 2026 first episode of So French, le podcast from Paris about France, its crazy politics and life à la française. My name is Sara Bertilsson.
And my name is Stefan Vries. It's a new year, new challenges, or are we going to repeat last year? In France, it's more new year, but the same problems. In this episode, we'll look back at 2025, and we'll also see what's already in the backpack as we enter the new year 2026.
As you get older, as I get older at least, I have this feeling that time is going just quicker and faster and faster and faster. But when I look back at 2025, I must say that it feels now very, very long ago, at the beginning of 2025. It feels like ages ago, and so many things happened during this past year. What do you think, Stefan? What for you, when you look back, what are the main events that you take with you?
Well, if I look back at France, it's of course the incredible amount of governments, the ministers that have changed, the announcements of the budget, and then the cancellation of the announcement of the budget, and then the negotiations of the new budget. And then actually what also struck me is that Macron was not very present in national politics last year. We did see him, of course, regularly when it came to the war in Ukraine, some international events in Europe, in Brussels. But I think in France, he was pretty, well, let's say discreet, well, more than we are used of him. And 62 ministers, is that correct? It sounds crazy, Sarah? I remember.
Well, remember, because we must say that many of them had a tenure of about 20 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Because there was the Le Cornu government that was announced in October on a Sunday evening around, I can't remember, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe it lasted for, and then it was less than so, because just before midday, I think, or 11.
Yeah, very quickly.
Le Cornu announced that he was actually stepping down, that the government, was not going to start working. But it had already been published in the official Gazette. So officially they did. They were ministers. So 62. It's a lot. Last year started as like this year without a budget. Remember?
Yeah.
And then, finally, there was a budget that was voted through. Much of it actually resembled the one that was rejected before the Christmas break last year. But there has been a lot of, as you say, this budget talk. I mean, it was the budget that Bayrou presented for 2026.
Bayrou? François Bayrou? Who was that again?
Remember that prime minister we had for a while here in France?
Yeah.
He did save Macron at one point, because he was the one who managed to get a budget for 2025 through Parliament. But after that, he got caught up in this quite serious scandal of sexual and physical violence in a Catholic school in his region, and during the time that he actually was Minister of Education, and also a time when he was a local politician in this area. So he got caught up in that scandal. He handled it really, really badly, I must say. And then it was eventually the budget of 2026 that pushed him out, because he presented a budget that was not acceptable for most politicians. So he was at the one moment the savior for Macron, and then quite quickly became a burden.
Yeah, it was also a year when politicians with a very long experience, like François Bayrou, thought that they finally got their chance to lead the country, and then their downfall was very quickly, and they will end their careers on a very negative note. Before Bayrou, there was of course Michel Barnier, also a very experienced minister in France, a former European Commissioner, the person who negotiated Brexit very successfully for the European Union. He thought he would become prime minister, and within 3 months he was gone. Then Bayrou, and of course also, we didn't mention him yet, but Bruno Le Maire. He was the Minister of Finance for 7 years. He came back in that very short-lived government of Le Cornu. And then within 24 hours, that career was already done. So we saw a lot of old, experienced politicians appear, reappear, disappear. Yeah, and one of those falling and rising stars, maybe was also Bruno Retailleau. He
Yes,
was
absolutely.
all over the place last year. He even took the
Really
reins.
the star of the
Yeah,
Republican Party here. He was everywhere. I mean, all media was all about him. Quite media savvy, must say. Know exactly how to play journalist and play media. And he was on top of everything. And many thought that he was a name for even for the 2027
yeah.
presidential election.
Yeah, very hard right also. And he took over the Nicolas Sarkozy's party, or former party, even took it even more to the right. But when Le Cornu announced that he would hire Bruno Le Maire, uh, a well-known enemy of Retailleau, Retailleau made him responsible, not entirely incorrect, I must say, but for the French debt chaos, because he was years a finance minister. And then Retailleau pulled out of the government. And then what happened? Was that a smart move, or you think he will regret it, what he did?
Well, what happened was that, yes, he pulled the Les Républicains out of the Le Cornu government, saying that, this was not that kind of the new type of governance that the Les Républicains were looking for. But what happened was that quite a few Republican Party members actually stayed in the government, and he had said he was going to kick them out of the party because of this, but at the end of the day, that didn't happen. They were just given a warning, and I think
Yeah,
some of them were suspended, but they're not kicked out of the party. And I think his power was lost, and I'm not sure. Will he regret it? Probably not. I'm not sure he's the kind of person who will look back at his career and make regrets.
yeah,
But it's one thing's for sure that we see much, much less of him today. His influence seemed to have gone down significantly. And when you look at what's happening, even in the Republican Party, his power is not the same as it was before, because we saw now during the budget negotiations, for example, he told the members, the Républicain members of parliament, to not vote for the part of the budget which is the social security budget. And he said that people from the Les Républicains should either abstain or vote against it. And they actually, very few followed that
yeah,
that
yeah,
direction. So you can see that he has lost, that direct power over people. But
yeah. So
knowing France as
it
well,
was a sort of downfall. Yeah,
yeah, it was. But I mean, at the same time, we have seen people go into the shadows and then
yeah,
reappear again.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's never too late for a French politician to make a comeback, I would say.
No, some disappear in the shadows of the prison, and then 20 days later they have a book in the bookstores. That also happened in 2025. Let's have a short look at the politicians that are still remain popular, because there are some politicians. If we look at the opinion poll from December of Odoxa, the polling agency, we see on top Jordan Bardella. He's now the most popular politician, although most popular, it's 36% of approval rating, so it's not huge. And then, so he's of course the leader of the Rassemblement National. And then in second place, it's Marine Le Pen, the founder of Rassemblement National, 34%. So these right-wing politicians are the most popular ones in
Yeah.
France this year.
Far-right politicians, we should even say, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that also shows something about the probably upcoming local elections in March. And of course, next year, Sarah, we can do it again. Another presidential election, 2027.
Yes. Yes.
But that's
No,
for next year.
yeah. Well, then you look at these. I mean, it's always, I mean, polls. It's polls, and you can have very small events that influence people's votes on or the way that they answer these questions at the moment. But yeah, people. I mean, people have. I mean, it is right wing and far right politicians on the top. The left wing or centrist candidates are more doing not as good as the far right, for sure. The best, I think, well, when it comes to the centrists, Gabriel Attal, the leader of the Renaissance Party, so Macron's party, he's doing pretty well. There was talk at one point about him being a possible candidate for the presidential election as well. I'm not sure how serious that actually could be. I don't think that's really an option anymore. Especially since he actually broke quite strongly with Macron recently and has been quite open in his criticism against Emmanuel Macron.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then you have Raphael Glucksmann, who is sort of the also a left centrist candidate, but he's also
a
losing
member
a
of
bit
the European Parliament.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see where this leads. Well, one thing we can say that they're all above in when it comes to approval ratings. The least popular politician, I would say, of them all, which is Emmanuel Macron, the French president, who today has approval ratings of 11%.
Yeah, incredible. Huh? Is he the most unpopular president ever with 11%? Or
I think he is at a tie with François Hollande at one point of his tenure. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I think they're sort of at the same levels.
It's his last full year as a president.
And as you say, he has been very. I mean, he is very invisible on the national stage. We see him barely. I mean, very, very rarely talk about national politics. He did a tour just before Christmas around the country where he was, it was sold as him meeting with the people. But there was also quite little interest from the public to actually join these meetings. And it was, as quite often is with Emmanuel Macron, him going out and holding these very, very long speeches and talking for a very, very long time. And I'm not sure how much of an exchange this actually was, how much he was really there to listen to people and learn about their grievances, about their issues, about their maybe solutions, or if he was more there to sort of explain how the world works for them.
And then it was also an intensive year for the French justice system with several very high stake cases, much to our enjoyment and to I think the enjoyment of our listeners, because we made a lot of fun of it. But it was really a crazy year with all the convictions of many very high profile politicians, right?
And serious convictions and serious
Very
cases.
serious,
I mean, you can
not
laugh about it when
traffic incidents.
No, exactly. And when you start thinking about, the seriousness of this, it gives you a bit of a chill, I think, because we have had several high-ranking politicians convicted of very, very, very serious corruption serious corruption cases. So this started in May when Marine Le Pen, the founder of the National Rally Party, was convicted of embezzlement. Her party used European funds, European Parliament funds, to pay for party stuff, and it was 4 years in prison. 5 years, most importantly, 5 years of ineligibility. That word is very complicated.
Complicated words. Not being allowed to run again.
Not being allowed to stand in an election for 5 years. That was a conviction that was actually had immediate effect, which of course put Marine Le Pen's presidential hopes at in question.
Yeah.
So that was a very serious case. Turned out that her appeals trial will actually take place now next week already. If she is cleared in this appeals trial, there is a possibility that she actually could stand in the 2027 election. However, as she was convicted, of course, all these steps were made to make sure that the party would still have a candidate, would still seem strong, would still appear as the major possibility for the 2027 presidential election. So her protege, Jordan Bardella, the leader of the party, was then presented as the natural candidate for the 2027 election. So well that today, even, we're still not clear whether Marine Le Pen will be able to stand in the election or not, he is still considered as a very, very strong candidate.
Yeah.
So I think we will see in not too long where the outcome of this appeals trial. But it will be interesting to see as well how this power game between Jordan Bardella and Marine Le Pen plays out, and will she be ready to let him take center stage? I mean, she has been wanting this presidential position for so long, and she's been, I think this is her 5th presidential election. Is she really ready to let a not even 30-year-old take her place and sort of harvest the fruit of her decades of work to rebuild the party, to rebuild the image? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean,
It must be very frustrating for her because she had set her eyes on 2027. It would be very likely that she could have won this time, but indeed, as you say, is she going to run against her own crown prince? Probably not, because that means that the votes for the Rassemblement National will be divided anyway. So she's what we say in France, between le marteau et l'enclume, between a place and a very hard rock. And it's I don't really see her running next year. But next week.
You think she will be ready? Do you really think that she will be? Like, let's just say that she's cleared. There is no more conviction. She's all the judicial worries are gone. Do you really think she will be ready to step aside after all this work, everything that she's done?
In that case, Bardella would step aside, and then maybe he would become the prime minister, and then he will run in 5 or in 10 years. I mean, like you said, he's still so young. That would be the only scenario where the Rassemblement National would, survive, if Bardella would say, "Okay, I'll step aside, and you can be the candidate."
But then you have the other issue, which is that Jordan Bardella has become so popular.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
In some of the, I mean, it's very early now for any kind of poll, but they're still made. So it's interesting to look in what case. And in some cases, he's actually even more popular than Marine Le Pen. He has a bigger chance of winning than Marine Le Pen. So then you have, is it the party that's the most important thing? Is it the win for the National Rally, for the far right in France? Or is this about people and egos? And it's true. I mean, he has many presidential elections ahead of him, that's for sure. I mean, he's very young. But if you would, I think this will be something to really keep an eye on for 2026, how the relationship between the two of them turns out.
Absolutely, and I think we'll do that this year here in So French. And speaking of this year, what are we looking ahead? What are we looking forward to in the new year, 2026, Sarah?
Well, a little bit of the same, I must admit. We still have no budget. So this year actually starts the same way as last year did. There is still no budget in France. With, of course, the same possible consequences, because this means that the position of current Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu is very fragile. The government is quite weak. and of course French finances are still the same mess as they were beginning of 2025. So that, I mean, that will be something. I mean, will there be a new? Well, I mean, will there be a new vote of no confidence? Will the current prime minister try to push the budget through parliament without a vote, as has been done before? Even he said he wasn't going to, but people change their mind all the time. So yeah, budget, finances, French's role on the international stage when in relation to these very, very dire finances, of course. But then there's other things, and which might be a bit more fun for us to have a look at it. There are local elections in France, but pretty soon in March this year.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Paris City Hall is up for grabs. Current mayor, I should say, Anne Hidalgo, loved and hated, very, very controversial figure in many ways. In one sense, the person who made Paris green. She made all these cycling lanes. She really transformed the city. She has made a lot of enemies on the way. And she has decided she's not going to stand in this upcoming election. So many are those who are eager to take her place. There are local elections all around the country.
Yeah, many elections around the country. 36,000 local governments will be elected. That's half of all the local governments in Europe. Did you know that? Half of all the mayors in Europe are French mayors. More than 36,000. Yeah, it's crazy. There are even a few villages, fun fact for French listeners, a few villages that have 0 inhabitants, but they do have a mayor. And that has to do with the First World War. Of course, many towns at that time were completely destroyed. And some of those villages, are being kept for memorial reasons. So they still exist, but nobody lives there anymore. But there is a mayor. Very curious, peculiar situation. But of course, I was also thinking about Anne Hidalgo. She will go, Anne Hidalgo. But she's actually also the last very prominent politician of the socialists. And nobody else is really having a very high office anymore. So what's left
socialists?
of them? Yeah. Do you think they will come back or?
Socialists? No, in France, no.
No, it's done, huh? They're done.
We do. Well, speaking of people coming out of the shadows, I mean, we have seen François Hollande doing quite a few media appearances lately. So yeah, but no, for the socialists. I mean, we've seen over these past years the big blocs that used to be socialists and the conservative Les Républicains. They're both lost. I mean, almost all their direct influence and positions in politics.
Yeah. But the one who will maybe be her successor will be somebody completely different, Rachida Dati. She's a familiar face for many different reasons for the past almost 2 decades now. She's a celebrity. She's a French politician, a European politician. And she's very French because she's also entangled in several corruption cases and also awaiting trial in September this year. So we may have another very high-profile politician, the mayor of Paris, maybe, who will have to stand trial for corruption. She's now the mayor of the 7th arrondissement, the borough, one of the 20 boroughs of Paris. A very rich borough,
very
along
chic,
the left bank, very chic, with the Eiffel Tower, many embassies. Would that be an option?
She was, I would say, the absolute favorite throughout most of last year. Because there has been for many years a push within the right, with the right wing centrist and right wing parties in Paris to take back City Hall from socialists who've had it for many years now. And there was this. It was thought to be a deal between then les Républicains and Macron's Renaissance party, that they were going to sort of have united front and unite behind one single candidate, and it was believed for a long time that this candidate was going to be Rachida Dati. But what happened was that actually she had a fallout with the Renaissance party, and especially with Gabriel Attal, then its leader. I mean, I'm going to repeat this because it says a little bit about what kind of person that Rachida Dati is. I haven't heard this myself, but it is told that she had a fallout with Gabriel Attal, and she threatened to make a kebab out of Gabriel Attal's dog. And these are the kinds of, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but these are the kinds of things that Rachida Dati would, say or throw out. And then, of course, she said it was only a joke, a joke that wasn't appreciated by Gabriel Attal. This is not the only reason, of course. There are many political nitty-gritty details and, calculations and house of card politics behind this. But the result is that Renaissance, instead of backing Rachida Dati, has decided to go with their own candidates for the City Hall election. And that, of course, changes everything. And Rachida Dati is no longer as sure, we can say, to be not even the second, or the first or the second. It could actually be the third in this election. So it will be an interesting one to look at. Paris is, of course, a very important city in France. Well, the most important city in France, but also in Europe. And it's very much the
campaign. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a showroom, a showcase of France for the rest of the world. So
yeah. And anyone else likely to make the headlines, do you think, in 2026?
Well, I don't know. Could it be someone that we've been talking about for the past 10 years?
I cannot imagine. Will he be back in our podcast again? Nicolas Sarkozy?
Could he? He could. He could.
Maybe another
book.
Well,
after his massive success of his book, what was it called again? The Diary of an Inmate?
No. Yeah, something like that. Le Journal d'un Prisonnier. Yeah, you're right. The Diary of an Inmate.
It is true that, so that was the name of it. So our former president, former inmate then, Nicolas Sarkozy, he's likely to be back in the headlines because his conviction for conspiring to raise campaign funds from former Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, the case that actually then got him in prison for 20 days last year. That appeals trial will take place later this year, and I'm sure there will be a lot of media coverage. So he is likely to be part of also the 2026 edition of So French.
Yeah, absolutely, because there are also other cases where he still has to stand trial. It is quite astonishing, the number of legal affairs, but also his former government. Almost everybody, including Rachida Dati, in his government of 2007, 2012, is in some way involved in legal affairs. It is such a big mess. It's incredible.
Can I just make one wish like this?
Yes.
We're beginning of the year. We can have New Year's wishes, right? I would love to see a new and upcoming politician in France. I mean, wouldn't you love to see that? I mean, I have the feeling that since I moved here, many of the people we're talking about today, they've been in the news. They've been part of the political elite for at least, a decade, but many, much more, much longer than that. I would love to see someone new, someone with a new energy and breaking with the old style of French
absolutely.
politics.
And of course, I mean, you just mentioned Gabriel Attal, who is very young, and there's the current Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu. He's only 38 or 39. He's also very young, but it looks like even he looks very old already, but it also seems that he has been in politics for many, many decades. It's just that they have something so, I don't know, old-fashioned, these French politicians. But you're right, yeah. But when Macron came up, it was also like, finally, this young man, completely new, and look where we are now. So yeah, but I understand your New Year's wish, but it's 1 year before the presidential elections. There can be many surprises, and of course, if there's some kind of new star on the horizon that can change France, then we will discuss it here in So French. But before we do, we will talk about somebody who has disappeared. Of course, we're talking about Bébé, Brigitte Bardot. She passed away on one of the last days of the last year, the 28th of December, and her funeral was this week. Did you attend the funeral? Were you invited, Sarah?
I was not invited, and I'm
No.
not very disappointed about that. That's no regrets there, I can tell you. She passed away on my birthday. I'm just saying. I don't
Sorry,
really like
did I send a
sharing the.
message to congratulate you? Did I forget
No,
it again?
no, you did not forget. But
Oh,
it's and I rarely like I don't like sharing the limelight, and but yeah, I had to this year because of course her passing was a big news, of course, here in France.
yeah,
Much has been said.
she's
Much has been said,
yeah,
and there's been a lot of media coverage about her. I think that today it is clear to everyone who has at least been following the news for the past weeks that Brigitte Bardot had a very, to say, troubled legacy. To say the least.
yeah,
Many different sides of her character. The thing is that people outside of France, I think, can be forgiven for not having known
mhm,
how Bébé went from the symbol of sexual emancipation
yeah, and
to
Europe's
a
biggest
full.
movie star as well.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah,
yes, true.
yeah,
And this really like star to become a very committed racist, homophobic, Islamophobic, anti-feminist, you name it, and then
yeah,
also, of course, then the animal rights defender. Sure, um,
yeah,
but she left cinema in 1973, and there has been very little reason for media outside of France to talk about her. So I forgive people out for not having known, this
yeah,
side
of
of,
course.
of her of her life and this part of her life. However, here in France, it's been very very well known, unlike no secret to no one, because she has been very vocal about it,
Yeah,
very, she's been in media, she's been talking, and she has been convicted 5 times. Not one, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 5 times.
yeah.
She has been convicted for her racist slurs.
Yeah, nothing to do with the image that she set in the 1960s and 70s of this attractive, independent French woman. That image that really does not longer exist for many, many decades in France already. Although I have the impression that one person was not really aware of what she did after her acting career. And that was, of course, the French President Emmanuel Macron, because despite all these convictions after her death, he called Brigitte Bardot the legend of the century and claimed that she embodied a life of freedom.
The use of freedom that has
Yeah.
been very used when it comes to Brigitte Bardot. I've heard it everywhere over these past weeks.
Hmm.
People say that she was like the incarnation of liberty, and liberty also, coming from the French, like liberté,
Yeah.
égalité,
Yeah.
fraternité. So really connecting her with the like the embodiment of France.
Yeah.
And freedom for what? I can't. I wish that journalists would have asked the question more often to people who said that. What kind of freedom are we talking
Yeah.
about here? I mean,
Yeah.
this is a freedom of telling, of really humiliating people, and um, anyone who's not white, who's not the same religion or origin, and like her, and she came from a very privileged background as well. So I mean,
also, yeah, in Paris, in the 7th, also I think one of those very chic
very
arrondissements.
chic neighborhoods, at least.
Yeah, or the
Yeah, I don't know which
16th,
one.
something like that. Yeah. No, yeah, it's crazy that even.
And I just can't understand why Emmanuel Macron had to go to this length to pay homage to her. And he even, I mean, the surprise was even bigger when we found out that he had offered a national homage to Brigitte Bardot. This was later, it was rejected by her family because Brigitte Bardot was not a fan of Emmanuel Macron for different reasons. And the family rejected this offer, and I mean, I must say, we can maybe be happy and thankful that they turned this offer down, because it would have been a very awkward situation. And how would that have been dealt with? It's a very, very strange. But I just can't. I don't know. Can you see, Stefan, what is the reason, and why would the president do such a thing?
I don't know. I think he would like to identify himself with an idea of France from the past, that France was a big country that illuminated the world, and that somehow, as a French president, he is the embodiment of this enlightenment. I don't know what's going on in his head, but it's not the first time that we see the president of the wrong side of history, right? He sent also his massive support to the rape-accused actor Gérard Depardieu. He said Depardieu makes France proud. He defended also ministers who were accused in rape cases as victims. And recently his wife, Brigitte Macron, was caught up in a scandal after she called feminist activists sale connes, stupid or filthy bitches. So there is something going on in the household of the Macrons by not really picking the right side of the arguments. I don't know why he so insisted to organize a national homage to Brigitte Bardot. But as you mentioned, the family was wiser than the president, and they declined the offer, probably saving him from another humiliation. But yeah, it puts a lot of question marks around the behavior of Emmanuel Macron. So, well, let's say goodbye to Brigitte Bardot. Bye-bye. And to our listeners, because it's time to wrap up this edition. Of course, you can find all our episodes where you usually get your podcast, and make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. And follow us. You can also find us on Instagram. Just search for So French Show.
And please share this episode with your friends and family and anyone else. And send us an email. The address is bonjour@sofrench.show. This So French podcast, I should say, is presented and produced by me, Sara Bertilsson.
And by me, Stefan de Vries. And this podcast's original music is made by Laurent Blo. We're back in 2 weeks with a new episode. Until then, take care. Au revoir.
Au revoir.